And welcome to the second episode of A Cup of Grace and Lori. I'm Lori,
I'm Grace.
and we're so glad that you were able to join us again today. We had some great feedback on our first episode, and we're thrilled about that. So we are proceeding with the next one. I don't know about you, but have you been watching the Olympics, Grace?
I actually don't even know or did not know when they
What?
were happening even. Like
You're
when did they
kidding. What?
when when d-
It started a week ago.
a week ago. So it's almost over.
What? Pardon
So it's
me?
the Olympics are almost over.
No, there's another week. There's another
Another week.
week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you're not into that, I guess, eh?
I used to be, but not
Yeah,
not
not
anymore.
lately.
And I
Oh,
just feel it so strange that they still went ahead with the Olympics,
oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
right?
I mean, it didn't look very good for the longest time, or at least I was thinking it wouldn't go ahead, but I mean, some
Mhm.
of them are having getting COVID, and like the Canadian skater was delayed. He didn't get there for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 days because he tested positive for COVID, Keegan
Mhm.
Messick. But yeah, oh, I'm a big fan of the Olympics and Canadian
Oh
women's
yeah,
hockey
okay.
team. Oh yeah, they destroyed, I think it was Sweden this morning, 11-0. So yeah, I love
Which event?
Canadian women's hockey team. They were
Oh my
playing
Lord, 11-0.
11-0. Yeah. So
That's
they're
a bit
hot.
much.
I think they're going to get gold. I think they're going to beat the US. Anyway,
That's
so
amazing.
yeah. Anyhow, for today's episode, I thought I would discuss moving because I moved 2 months ago, actually. I live with my mother. We both moved. So this was an interesting experience for me. Um, First, I'm just going to tell you about, we lived in a house with 2 units in Leslieville, and about a little over a year ago, the upstairs tenant left and a new tenant moved in. And I don't like to use terms like the tenant from hell, but I will in this
Yeah.
case. I will in this case because she was so noisy, and there was no insulation between the 2 units. Um, like it was like living really in a house, so you could hear everything. She had a dog, and I love dogs, by the way. I'm a dog lover, but this
Mhm.
dog barked and barked and barked and barked, and she wouldn't tell it to be quiet. And this happened late at night. Oh, whenever, if it saw a cat, if it saw a dog, if it saw a person, it would bark, and she wouldn't tell it to be quiet. So I'm like, tell the dog to be quiet, right? Um, we shared the hydro, so we didn't have separate hydro meters.
Mhm.
So she would go out for the weekend and leave her air conditioning running all weekend, even though she wasn't home.
All
Yeah,
weekend. Yeah.
yeah. Lights were on. She would leave the lights on in the hall all night, you know.
Mm.
So she didn't walk on the floor. She stomped on the floor.
Uh-huh.
That's the way she moved.
She's
So
she's heavy-footed.
extremely heavy-footed.
Mhm.
So it was a nightmare living with her. She was not responsive to any of my requests to be a little quieter, or you know, not she had people over and parties, loud parties, etc. And she didn't seem to care. She didn't seem to think there were other people living with her. She seemed to act as if it was her own house. Anyway, I
Well,
don't,
probably because you and your mother were very quiet.
we are very quiet.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was a very bad match on the landlord's part you know, match her up with us. It was a completely mismatch. Anyway, we knew we couldn't, oops, fire alarm's going off, smoke alarm.
Oh,
My
it's
mom
on
has,
your end?
yeah, my mom's cooking something.
Oh.
I'm sure.
If the fire alarm goes off, that means your mom's cooking.
No, well, because I'm in here and I'm not doing anything, so. Oh, good, there it is. It's off now, so. Um, we knew we couldn't live there anymore, but I developed a huge fear of moving. First of all, it's still the pandemic, right? So just, I was scared of moving during the pandemic. The Toronto real estate market has just exploded and rents are through the roof.
Hmm.
So and I should say that at the house we were living in, which was in Leslieville, our rent hadn't been increased in 7 years. So it was artificially low, right? It
Mhm.
wasn't market rent. And when we started looking, we were shocked at what the rents are, what landlords are asking for, like a really crappy bungalow or whatever. So I had this huge fear and I was really scared about moving. I didn't want to leave my area. I didn't want to leave this house, even though I was living with this tenant who was causing so many problems for us. We still had a
Yeah.
beautiful backyard where which I enjoyed every day. I would go out and read for a bit, and it was almost like being at the cottage. It was really wild and back there. So I loved that. And I created this, I mean, I created this problem for myself with my fear and resistance because um, I, I couldn't get over it, or at least I was struggling with it. And I kept postponing wanting to move. Like I said, no, let's move next month. Let's move the following month. And then summer came along, and summer is actually really nice at that property because all the flowers are in bloom and everything. And then we were going away. We were going to the cottage in summer. So I was like, no, don't disrupt our cottage plans. Like, so I kept pushing it off and pushing it off. And then finally in September 1st, I think she had an all-night party. My
Yeah, I
mom's,
remember you told
yeah,
me.
my mom's and my nerves were just frayed. So we're like, okay, fine, we'll give her notice. So we gave her notice to move November 1st and started looking. And we looked at about 14 or 15 properties. And we didn't really find what we wanted. We saw one that was in bad shape, but it was cheaper. So we put an application in. We weren't accepted, and I'm so grateful that we weren't because the place really needed work.
Mhm.
We finally found this place that we're living in, and we obviously were successful in getting it. But it was such a stressful move because I was resisting, right? Even though we had signed the papers and everything, I was still resisting moving. I didn't want to move. I was afraid. I was afraid that this place cost more. Obviously, I was afraid we wouldn't be able to afford it. I was afraid when we moved out of the area, we're not in Leslieville anymore. We're not far. We're just 10 minutes away. But
Mhm.
yeah, um, I it I still have this resistance, and it took until around Christmas for me to really start settling in and feeling what I would say is some joy about living here.
Mhm.
So I really have to look back on this experience and wonder, why I created this for myself, like what was happening. And
Uh-huh.
I think what happened was the universe sent this tenant to live there so that we would move, to make it so uncomfortable for us so that we would move. The reason
Mm.
I'm saying that is I did a lot of work on myself during the first year of the pandemic, during 2020. I was reading a lot of books, I guess you call them self-help books or whatever. And I made some internal changes that actually reflected physically in the next year when I lost weight, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, I kind of was pulling myself up to a new level about this is the way I want to live my life. So part of me was like, I want more out of life. I want to make changes, and I want to live more fully and more authentically and actually just better than I've been
Mm-hmm.
living. And yet the other part of me was the part that was afraid and was keeping me down. So
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe, as miserable as the experience was, that this tenant came into our lives. We attracted her through law of attraction
Uh-huh.
to get us to move. I believe that. I believe that. I believe in signs or people coming into our life. Not everybody is going to be a catalyst for change, but I do believe she was a catalyst for our change. Because I had this resistance, I had to have an experience that was so horrible. And I remember telling myself, I wrote this down. This is hell. This experience is hell. That's the term I used, and I don't use that term very often.
Mm.
I generally enjoy life. Um, but it was hell being with her energy. And it, there was no, we had to move to survive. I mean, it was,
Very
to,
stressful, I imagine.
it was extremely stressful. So I guess I want to say, how do we know when it's time to change? How do we know when it's time to move on? Whether it's, and I'm talking about a situation where I was, I had to change residences, but what about if you're in a job? And I started thinking about it, and I had a similar experience when I worked um, at the job I had before I left to go to return to university. And everything was going great for the first couple of years. I ended up staying there for 6.5 years. But in the last maybe 2 years, things started to go a little downhill for me. Like I wasn't, for example, I wanted to get my job description rewritten to a higher level because I was doing more, and I felt that that was only fair. That didn't get approved. My director didn't support that, and she told me she had submitted it to HR, but she didn't. And so
Do you think
she didn't
do you
support. Sorry, go ahead, Grace.
you didn't support it, do you think because she didn't want to pay you more?
Oh, that's possible. That's
Mm-hmm.
possible. Or yeah, that's very possible. Bottom line was it didn't go anywhere, and I was waiting and waiting several months for that, thinking it was being reviewed by HR, and she hadn't even submitted it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, then I started applying for jobs, and I went on a couple interviews, but I didn't get the job. So things were not, I was dissatisfied and things weren't going my way, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the sign that I took, that it's time to leave. It's time to leave here. It's no longer the perfect job for me. And I would say the same with our house over in Leslieville. What we once loved was no longer a good situation for us. And those signs are telling you you need to move on. Now, it could be, I mean, some people live in a house for 10, 15, 20 years. Maybe that they're meant to stay there that long. I'm not saying that, you necessarily have to move on after 5 years. In my case, we were over at the house in Leslieville for 8 years. And at the job I was just talking about, I was there for 6.5 years. But I do believe that, as I said, we get these signs when it's time to move on, and I'm not good at reading them. I wait until I'm like, someone literally pushes me out the door, right? And I need to get better at recognizing these signs.
But do you think that there are always signs? Do you have to have a sign before you make a change?
That's a good question. Maybe not. Maybe not. See, I do, because I hold on, so I don't like change.
I think a lot of people don't.
I don't like, I say I do. I say I like change, but I don't like change. I resist it.
You like change when you have a sense of control, when you're the changer, when you're creating the change.
Yeah.
There's a sense of control.
Yes. Yes. Or when the change happens and it turns out well, then I like change. Like,
so leading up to it, anticipation of change. Yeah, no, you're resistant.
No, I do not like change unless it's something good. But then I only know that until after it happens, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, no, I do. I resist change. And it's funny because I'm like, well, Lori, you went back to university. That was a huge change, right? That was a huge change. But that change I loved. And it didn't take me any time to get used to it. I remember sitting in my first class the first day, and it was September. And I remember thinking about my colleagues back at the ministry. And I thought, oh, that's where I would normally be on a day like today, but I'm here. I'm in this classroom. It was romantic poetry we were studying. And I was looking out at the window and the campus, and I was thrilled. I was thrilled to be there. And actually, I was thrilled to be there the whole time. It was the best experience for me. So, yeah, that changed.
But you decided. No one pushed you into going to university.
I guess not. No, nobody did. Nobody did. No, it was my decision. Yeah, it was something I wanted to do all my life, but I never had the confidence to do it. So yeah, maybe that's it. Okay, the fact that I decided.
Yeah,
that change.
It's different. It's different when you make the decision
versus being forced, or we're never forced, but feeling like I was forced to make a change. Maybe that's it. That's it, because I don't feel in control. That's
right.
It.
I think
I didn't feel in control at all in this situation with the house, whereas I did with university. Okay.
Yeah.
Observation. And then, I mean, are we ever in control anyway? Are we? I don't know.
To some degree.
To some degree, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, a lot of us just have why we're so resistant to change is because it's the fear of the unknown. And that has to do with control. We don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And I think a lot of that is what's going on now in the world with the pandemic. A lot of the panic has to do with the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
So I think that just adds to the fear.
Right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet, I mean, things turned out well. I
think, the anticipation is usually worse than the actual outcome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so glad. I'm so glad to not have her in our lives. It's amazing, so um
So how long
maybe
have you lived at the new place now?
since December 1st, so it's
Not too
coming up
long.
2.5 months. Yeah,
Okay.
coming up to 2.5 months. And it's funny, like it does take a bit of getting used to, right? When you make a big
Sure.
change like this. It's funny, I'll go back to when I changed jobs, and this was over a decade, well, probably 15 years ago. I remember starting at my new job, and I noticed the whole office was quiet, and I thought, oh my God, I can't work in here. It's too quiet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Eh,
you don't like silence.
No, no, no. But anyway, so what it was I had moved into a professional office, and whereas my other previous office, people were yelling, over cubicles, or
Mhm.
there was that type of atmosphere. So I had moved into a professional office where people actually, you know, behave properly. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh my God, I can't stand it here. And my, actually one of my previous supervisors, who I was still in touch with, she said, Lori, give it a month or two. Just hold on, give it a month or two. Don't, and don't make any snap decisions. And sure enough, after maybe a month or 6 weeks, I got used to the silence and I loved it. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, because it's like, actually, I can concentrate, I can work. I don't have all these interruptions or this background noise, right? So I think with change, we do have to give it, even after we make the change, we have to give it a month or two, maybe 3 months, to really, try and not be biased by what we brought from the previous experience, but to experience it fresh and new, and try and, give it a fighting chance, right?
Mhm.
Really to really experience it,
To be
not without,
open-minded.
be open-minded, exactly. So
Mhm.
yeah, so I'm so glad to be, we're to the second month of the new year, but I'm really glad to be starting the new year in this space, in this energy. I feel really positive, and actually I'm looking forward to some new things this year, including our podcast, which we're both excited about. So did you want to add anything, Grace, about moving? Or I know when you didn't move, but you went through a huge decluttering project. I think it was about a year or so ago.
At the start of the
Um,
pandemic.
right, the start of the
Yeah,
pandemic.
so yeah, what else was there to do?
True.
And I think a lot of people during the pandemic,
Yeah.
they took that as an opportunity to clean up their lives.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we still have that opportunity. I think that is one of the reasons too, why this is happening. Why this
Okay.
is happening, right?
Okay. When you say
It's
clean
not
up.
like we can see it with a scarcity mindset
Hmm.
and say, just think all doom and gloom. But there's a
Right.
lot of opportunities as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's not just 100% all bad,
Right.
because I've heard stories about people thriving during this time. A lot of people are working online now.
Yes.
They're their own bosses now,
Hmm.
right? Which is, I
Hmm.
think, well, you're already your own boss, and that is what I aspire to,
Yeah.
right?
Good. Good.
But with the decluttering, yeah, like I figure, okay, we have some time, lots of free
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So why don't I try to uh, clean up uh, my home, because it was extremely cluttered, and my place is still cluttered. And I think one of the things I have to accept about myself is I am kind of just that's the type of person I am. I'm not super organized, so my home is probably, I won't say never, never say never, but unless I have professional help
Mhm.
to clean my home, to have
Right.
an interior designer, I'm gonna have stuff around.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have a little bit of clutter.
Yeah.
But um, yeah, one of the reasons why I decluttered is because I do believe that when you see external clutter, you also feel it on the inside.
Oh, yes.
Like
For
it's
me,
vice
for
versa.
sure. Oh, me
Uh,
for sure.
your
Yeah.
external environment is a representation of what's going
Yes.
on inside of you.
Yes.
And so I try to get rid of the evidence. I
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I had and still have a lot of things, a lot of clothes. I got during the decluttering project, I filled up a minimum of 6 large garbage bags of
Really?
clothes and
Okay.
shoes.
Yeah. And
Like what
shoes
I did
too.
was pretty extreme. Like I piled everything
Uh-huh.
on my bed
Wow.
because I wanted, I didn't do things in small chunks, which is one of the advice that people give you when you declutter.
Okay.
But but there's the other strategy where you're shocked, you're shocked into making a change. So I put everything on my bed, and
Yeah.
there was a mountain of clothes. It was just devastating to
Yeah.
look at all the things that I had accumulated
Right.
throughout the years. Because
Right.
I often don't go. I'm not into trends, right? So I
Okay.
buy clothes that you can wear for
Anytime.
multiple years,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and I don't let go.
Right.
Right?
Well,
So
if
I
it's good
keep it attached
quality,
to things.
but if
They're
you're
good
still
quality.
and you're still
Yeah.
wearing it, then why let it go if you're still wearing it, right?
But I have so much. I have
Oh,
so
I see.
much.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it was a bit much. But
Okay.
I'm just going to say that yeah, my bedroom looks a lot better now. It's a lot more organized, and I fold my clothes nicely in my dresser drawers.
Yeah.
So my room is the cleanest.
Okay.
It's the most organized. But
Good.
in my living room, I still have a lot of clutter.
Okay.
But and seeing this clutter in my living room still, it's not as bad as it used to be. After the my little decluttering project in
Yeah.
2020,
Yeah.
not as bad. But I think one of the like I touched on briefly, one of the things I have to accept is that just might be me. Like that's just I'm never going to be Martha Stewart.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I have to accept that. Instead of chiding myself into
Right.
not being a certain way, I have to work on accepting, you know, I
Yeah.
I like to put stuff, if there's a surface, I like to put stuff on it.
Okay. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like to hold on to clothes, and I did lose a lot of weight in the last year, and
Uh-huh.
I've held on to clothes that I bought in the early 2000s, like 2002,
Sure.
2003, but I'm like, I can pull that off, like, that's still in style, like, if it wasn't in
Yeah.
style, I would probably, get rid of it.
Fashion goes around. It
Yeah,
comes
I
back.
mean, like, Um, I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, "That looks like it's still in style, so why would I get rid of it?" Right? Like, so I do have a lot of clothes, and I did get rid of some. I sent them, to, Value Village, but there are bags of clothes in the basement that are mine. Mind you, they're now I think they're bigger clothes. They might be the bigger size clothes, which I haven't got rid of just yet. Um, but
Well,
yeah, I guess I do like to, I mean, I'm keeping them because I'm gonna wear them. I'm not keeping them because I'm not gonna wear them. I'm gonna wear them, you know.
okay.
Yeah. Another thing though, another thing I find very difficult to get rid of is books. And
Oh yeah.
oh, that's actually even harder than clothes. I have
Really?
gone, yeah, books are really hard for me to get rid of. but I got rid of, see, for me, getting rid of 20 books is a lot. And I think I got rid of around 20 or 25 just in the past month. And that was really good because I've got like, I don't know, 6 or 7 bins of books. And I don't even know if I'm gonna, there's some books I do reread. And some I just enjoy them so much that I don't want to part with them. And I'm not even sure if I'm going to reread it. And I'm like, well, if someone visits my library and, and they
My
want
library.
yeah, no, I know it's a bookshelf, Grace. But anyway, and they want a good book, I'll recommend that or that one. I mean, it's like I don't think I'm going to read certain books again, but then I don't want to part with them because they were so good. So it's kind of weird. Like we treat books, I mean, book lovers treat books like there are babies or something. I don't know. But I find it hard to get rid of them. So I did get rid of some where I thought, okay, that was okay for the time, but it's not a classic, or it wasn't that well written, or I might have got, I get rid of those a little easier. But speaking of books, sorry, did I interrupt you? Okay.
Well, I just wanted to say, I'm like you with books, but during the decluttering, my decluttering project, I also got rid of a lot of books.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And where I live, we have a library upstairs for all the residents to.
Oh, you're kidding! Nice.
So I brought up a bunch of books there, so that was convenient.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
and I
great.
wanted to also. Oftentimes, I go to used bookstores, and you can try selling your books for money. And I wanted to do that. I had like bags of books, and they're in very good condition because I take care of my books.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
But it was during the pandemic, so a lot of at the time stores were closed, so I couldn't sell them. And then eventually I was like, I just want to get rid of them. I don't want to, see them.
Even ones you really loved. Even ones you really loved.
No, I still have a bookshelf of books.
Okay.
I do. There are still some books that I would probably never part with.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I have those. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of them are like self-help books and
I have some of those too.
Classics like Pride and Prejudice. I probably won't
I wouldn't get rid of that. No. No. It was hard for me to get rid of any of the books that I had to that we studied during my degree. That was difficult. Although I did get rid of a few. I got rid of a few.
I got rid of textbooks. I did get rid of textbooks.
I got I've got some huge anthologies that I still held on to because I'm gonna read some of those, Yeah, I will. Not the whole anthology, but there's a couple of stories in there that I will read. So so I
kept them for a while, but then I did get rid of them eventually.
Yeah, they are heavy.
The literature anthologies.
Yeah. Anyway, on the topic of books, I just wanted to mention that I review from time to time, not that regularly, but I do review books on my blog, Torontonicity. So this book came in the mailbox this morning, and it's called Don't Be Trashy, A Practical Guide to Living with Less Waste and More Joy. Just what we've been talking about. It's by Tara McKenna, and I'm going to be cracking it open this weekend, and hopefully I'll have it finished by our next episode, and I'll be able to give you a little summary of what I thought about this book. But I thought it was very relevant.
It's a good title. I like the title.
It is a great title, isn't it? Yeah, very, very catchy. So, well, I think we've come to the end of our second episode. So if you have any feedback, please leave it in the comments on our YouTube video. Well, I just wanted to add one thing. A couple of people asked about your makeup, your YouTube channel. So we're gonna leave a link in the description on YouTube for this podcast. But you can also Google, it's Grace at Midlife, and midlife is one word.
Yeah.
Correct? Right. So if you want to Google Grace's makeup channel, but we will leave a link in the description here. So thank you again for joining us, and hope to see you on the next episode.
Yes. Thank you.